should be interactive and relaxing playthroughs. Now, here's the funny part. So I played Metroid Prime yesterday, okay? And starts off strong, and by the end of the stream, we lost some viewers. Support was just okay. It wasn't great for a premiere stream or whatever. And people are like, oh my god, Metroid Prime, you see, it's a disaster. And I'm like, Metroid Prime wasn't good when I played it 8 years ago. I mean that. Like, when I played Metroid Prime 8 years ago, I played it in the Metroid Prime trilogy, and I played it, I think, during the summertime, like August, when there was nothing else going on. It didn't even do well back then. You know what I mean? Like I've told you guys, when I play Nintendo games, for some weird reason, alright, they just don't catch on that well. And I don't know if it's because I'm not known for playing Nintendo stuff, and there's already a bunch of established people who play Nintendo games on the internet. I don't know if it's because, I'm critical of Nintendo, which I am. I you know, unlike a lot of people who are just kind of fanboys, I tell it like it is. And if I think Nintendo is doing something wrong or something dumb, I always call them out, right? The thing is, I always am fair to their games when I play them, and I tell you, you know, what I think about them, and 9 times out of 10, you're playing a first-party Nintendo game. It's one of the best-in-class experiences you're going to get in gaming, right? But that doesn't mean that I just kiss Nintendo's butt constantly. But it's funny because it seems like every time that I go to play a Nintendo game, I get a response like, oh, well, why is he even playing Nintendo? I thought he hates Nintendo. What? Why do you think I hate Nintendo? Just because I'm actually critical of the company, which I feel my criticisms are fair. I don't feel like I'm going over the top hateful against Nintendo. I feel like I'm just being honest with criticism, which they need. They need honest criticism. They don't need to get their butts kissed. They've had their butts kissed for like 30 years. It's one of the reasons why their games run poorly. They have issues with things, you know, like why they make an entire console that no one wants. I mean, this is why. When you kiss someone's butt constantly and you don't give them honest criticism, they'll never improve. How many years was I putting out the same kind of content on the internet, not knowing that I needed to improve, until finally I listened to your criticisms, and all of a sudden here we are, better quality stuff, right? So you need it. And I just don't get why, quite frankly, the Nintendo stuff doesn't usually do well. It just doesn't. I don't think it's very rare when I play a Nintendo game and it gets any kind of significant attention. Even 7.5 years ago when I played Metroid Prime the first time, it was actually one of my deadest playthroughs of the year. Now, keep in mind, back then, I relied on views to make a living. It wasn't, oh, streams and crowdfunding and stuff like that. It was, you have to watch the videos on YouTube. That's how I make my money. It was all about ad revenue back then. And I actually looked at the playthrough last night because I was curious. And part 1 has like 20,000 views, which used to be common for 8 years ago. I would always get like tons of views on part 1. Then all of a sudden, part 2 is like 6,000 views. Part 3 is like 3,000. And then since then, it's like 1,000 views on each video moving forward. And that's a playthrough that's been up for over 7 years. And that's the best it did. You see? That's really bad compared to other playthroughs I used to put out. So it's just kind of like, it's always been like that. So when I knew I was going to play Metroid Prime, because here's the funny thing. Metroid Prime was shadow dropped several weeks ago, correct? And at that point, everyone was like, what? You're really missing it. Why don't you just drop everything and play Metroid Prime? I was like, you guys don't know anything who are saying shit like that. Like, you have no idea of my history, of anything. You know, every time I play a Nintendo game, it doesn't really do very well. I love them. I enjoy playing them. But for me, it's more like a passion project, or it's more like a chill project, rather than something that's a major deal. Only because, I don't know why, but they just don't catch on. Even when I play Super Mario Odyssey, it didn't do that good. When I played Breath of the Wild, it even didn't do that good. So it stands to reason it's going to be the same deal. In fact, I would say the only Nintendo game that I played in the last few years that did well was Metroid Dread. Yeah, that was about it. So it's funny because, again, it almost feels like when this game shadow dropped weeks ago, it was the vocal minority who really wanted to see it. Everyone else was interested in something else. But I said, I'll wait till it makes sense. Wait till it makes sense. And finally, it made sense this week, and that's why we're playing it. And I'm happy we're playing it. But at the same time, I'm not expecting sky-high performance from Metroid Prime. I mean, let's be honest. We got some really awesome stuff coming up this weekend that's going to take priority. And then I'm going to balance, you know, Metroid Prime with all the other stuff that's going to be probably doing way better. And that's how it's going to work. If I was just playing Metroid Prime and nothing else, I mean, right? But that's the thing. You can play games like this that are older games, that are games that not everyone wants to see, if you're balancing it with other content that everyone does want to see. That's how the variety style works. So, understand that, because some people like, I guess over and, oh, look, his videos did terribly. No, they never do well. Like, literally never. I couldn't tell you the last time I played a Nintendo game and it did well. Ever. So, anyway. So today, more Metroid. Yesterday was chill fun, and let me tell you, what an improvement using this controller over the stupid Wii motion controls from last time. I mean, literally, a completely different gaming experience. Easily going through the platforming, easily beating the first boss on the first shot, no problem. You know, that's the difference of actually having controls that work. So, I'm glad the motion control gimmick has completely died and faded and no one cares about it anymore, because what a joke of gaming that was. That whole decade we were stuck with that shit. It's just so much better on that controller, on this controller here. So, I'm looking forward to more. And for those of you who, after this show, will stick around and chill with me for Metroid Prime, thank you. It's great. It is a good game. It's funny because, I'm not kidding you, the views on my podcast yesterday are almost better than the views on the playthrough. In fact, they are better than 2 out of the 3 videos. Only part 1 of Metroid beat the views on the podcast. So, yeah, a lot of people, more people are interested in the podcast than Metroid right now. Not much you can do about that, all right? Tonight, it's more Oblivion. It should be chill fun.